that works for the housing conversation, but when it is a product like a digital camera that can be made for either $40 or made for $240, and to be competitive, because we know not every company is going to bring all their stuff back. So if I'm going to be the only one, and now my camera is the only one that's 780, and for the same features, the rest of the market is at 375, it's like, you see what I'm saying? That's a
Yeah,
lot different than a home.
yeah, that's true. I think, well, there's no doubt China can make things faster and cheaper, right? But I also think that's a function of competition. So when there's competition, there's an old economic theory called game theory, right? And game theory is all about how you are able to price things.
Hmm.
But as technology becomes more prevalent in any area, well, obviously technology is prevalent around the world. But when you have manufacturers out there in one significant, like you go to China and you go to a specific area in China, it's all they're all creating computer chips and all, all of them are manufacturing these things. You have a ton of people doing it.
Yeah.
Then that allows product, number one, they become more efficiently produced, and you're producing a lot of them, so the markets, it's really what the market can bear in price. And if you
Right.
have a flood of that product, then the price is going to be lower. And I'm not saying that we can come over here and create a ton of competition and start developing computer chips cheaper than China, at least right away. But, in 20, 25 years, if you have a lot of competition, it could really force some of those prices down as well too. So, I mean, I don't have all the answers to that, of course. Do I think it's beneficial what he's doing? Potentially,
Yeah.
right? Potentially it is. Is it beneficial for me and you in our lifetime? Maybe. Is it beneficial for our children's lifetime? Probably more beneficial, right?
Yeah.
For our children. And a diversification of what we do. I just do think that personally, this protectionist approach of bringing everything to America kind of takes us all away from that process we were on of a world economy opposed to just separate economies. And there's an effect to that. And that could bring on unintended consequences like war. I mean, it starts off with, it's like, think about World War II, right? It's like it starts off with like sanctions, right? And then all of a sudden you're getting bombed in Pearl Harbor because we took too much oil away from Japan,
Right.
you know?
Right.
So, I mean, there's always unintended consequences, and who knows? Like, he could start this situation, and all of a sudden, geopolitically, things escalate. Because the thing is with tariffs, so that's not just that's not just an economic policy. That's also a geopolitical policy. You're
Hmm.
like basically saying like, hey, look, we're going to start doing all this on our own. I know your country's been making a lot of money on us, and China's in a pretty difficult economic stature right now. So they're saying, hey, look, like we're going to take, if we're going to take a haircut here, now all of a sudden, who's to say that doesn't escalate into something that's a little bit more, face to face, opposed to just like, adding sanctions and tariffs. So,
Yeah.
I mean, there's a whole lot to unwrap in it,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
It's
and
interesting. It's definitely layered.
yeah,
Uh,
and you bring up a lot of good points too. I mean, like, there's no way to actually tell how this will work itself out. There's no
right.
way to tell exactly how well it will work. Um, Is it beneficial for us in the long run? I think it could be if it's done right. Is it going to be hurtful in the short run? Potentially, and how bad is that? It could be really majorly bad. Like, I think the one thing with Trump right now, though, is if we think about the tariffs, he's announced that he wants to do it. Wanted to start, he started with 10% China, Canada, and Mexico, right? 25% Canada and Mexico for not all products, but pretty much quite a bit of products. But as you noticed, he said, okay, we'll hold them off for 30 days.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I think, okay, he's kind of coming from, there's an old theory for business owners where they're just like, what's chaos theory? Let's like cause as much chaos as possible so we can get a handle on things.
Huh.
And there's chaos theory, like just even for you and I as small business owners, where we're like, okay, let's basically burn everything to the ground and try to rebuild it up again. There's a lot of positive that happens in, and that positive usually comes out, you're more efficient, you kind of change maybe your process and your vision and your direction change, you know what I mean? Like, there's so many benefits to it.
Yeah.
Potentially he's doing that where he's like saying, okay, we're burning everything to the ground and trying to rebuild this thing. And right now, if we start tariffing Mexico and Canada, I mean, there was already an article or a white paper that I read that said if we really went through with 25% tariffs, that would actually subtract 8% of Mexico's GDP. It would fall by 8%, and Canada would fall negative 5%. So essentially, Mexico would have a negative GDP, and so would Canada. So in this type of instance, you're thinking, okay, who has the power? Apparently, we do, or at least with Canada and Mexico, and we can use that as a bargaining chip. So let's go ahead and put 25% tariffs. We're going to announce it, scare everybody, and then say, okay, well, let's come to the table and figure out what we can do. Okay, Mexico, we want you to bring up your military and start working with us because we're paying for this right now in many different ways, and your guys' government is failing people. That's why they're coming here. So Canada is a little bit different story. I mean, we've always had a major trade imbalance with them, and we're basically are funding the Canadian economy by a pretty significant amount. So he's saying, hey, look, that's why he was making those jokes. Maybe you guys should just become the 51st state. Like that's kind of a silly way to put it, but the
Right.
point is I think he's
Yeah,
just
they didn't take it like a joke.
right.
So
Yeah, they
you gotta say
didn't.
it that way. They were no
Yeah.
one took that in. They were pretty upset about that.
Yeah, so it's just like, in my mind, maybe he's just causing as much chaos as possible. I think he will end up introducing tariffs to some extent. I don't think it'll be as high as the 25% that he's come out with because he's like, hey, we want some concessions. You guys do these concessions, and then we'll drop it down
Got
significantly.
it.
I mean, so
Okay. All right. So I appreciate all that. So that was my apologies. I had some questions that definitely derailed us. Let's get back to the bookmark, which was taxing tips. So you were kind of there, and I think we're kind of exploring how some of these policies are trying to benefit the American people.
yeah, yeah. So I know there was a lot of talk on the campaign trail of getting rid of the IRS, which I know all of us would love. But but the reality is like we still do have a lot of revenue come from that.